Well, it's looking more and more like it's almost time. We had Konami show up with an entire presentation based on Silent Hill, which Silent Hill fans obviously were really excited because there was a lot more than just the rumored Silent Hill 2 remake there. We have Silent Hill F to look forward to, a movie, and even a few other games with Annapurna and others. So there is a lot happening there for that franchise. But alongside of Silent Hill, there were a few other franchises that were being rumored, and the other one is an interesting case because while I think there's a lot of excitement, there's also a lot of concern if Konami can really be trusted to bring back Metal Gear Solid. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button, and if new to the Spawn Wave Plus channel, make sure you're subscribed down below. So first of all, a bit of a recap here as to what some of the expectations are. And this has been going on for years now, to the point where we were looking at Demon's Souls as if there was an Easter egg with a sound maybe of Metal Gear Rex in the background at one part of the game that could be signaling towards Blue Point doing a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1. And there's been a lot of projects that we think Konami could be doing, and one of those, yes, would include Metal Gear Survive 2, because that game really needs a sequel. But we can see this over on PC Gamer. It was from a little over a month ago, and this was mostly rounding up some of the rumors and talks around what's going on with the Metal Gear Solid remasters. Remember, those were pulled down. Konami has not put them back up, which is unfortunate because there's not a lot of ways to really experience Metal Gear Solid currently, especially on like newer systems. You can buy the HD collection for the Xbox 360 and just pop the disc into your Xbox Series and it will work. So at least there is a way to do that. But they do mention that VGC had talked about this, I think, again, over a year ago for this one, that Metal Gear and Silent Hill were both on their way to some degree. Silent Hill being a little further along, and that ended up being correct because we've heard about Silent Hill, have not heard about Metal Gear Solid yet. But the remasters appear to be something that would be rumored right now. Those just making a return. It seems like Konami had to figure out what to do with some of the historical footage as licensing or something ran up with it, and they were going to have to either replace the footage and update the games or pull the games. They decided to pull them. And unfortunately, again, they haven't come back, and there's concerns that they'll never come back. But Konami has continued to say that they will at some point, and that leads us now into the big rumor, and it keeps coming back up as recent as this whole Silent Hill thing, mostly because the Silent Hill reveal sort of just works to back up the claims around Metal Gear Solid, and that has to do with a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Yes, not like the remaster, a full-on remake, similar to what we're seeing with Silent Hill 2 getting a remake. And I think people are looking at this wondering, why Metal Gear Solid 3? I know Metal Gear Solid 2 is an iconic game, but Metal Gear Solid 3 is something else. That's a game that people look back on as the best in the entire series of Metal Gear. And in this case, the rumor is that they have Virtuos working on this game. Virtuos has been doing some pretty impressive stuff recently. We just saw Nier Automata come to the Switch, and in some cases, it actually looks better than the PS4 version, and it's interesting stuff with that one. So Virtuos is definitely a studio that can pull this one off. So if, say, we have Metal Gear Solid coming back with a remake of 3, the remasters, I assume, of 1, 2, and I guess 3. It's interesting. We'd have a remaster of 3, but then also a remake. I almost wonder if Konami would look at that and say it's kind of redundant and just leave 3 out of it and do 1, 2, and maybe Peace Walker. But really, I would like to see them just do an entire Legendary Collection and have as many Metal Gear Solid games as they can, pack it all into one SKU, and just kind of throw it on all the different systems. And I think that's going to be their path for the remasters. Get that on as many platforms as possible. And let's face it, the odds of Metal Gear Solid 3 being some sort of timed exclusive for Sony, I think that's just gone up from here, especially after what we saw with Silent Hill 2 Remake, that being a 12-month exclusive for the PlayStation 5. It'll also be on PC, but that just kind of makes me think, Konami, if they're talking to Sony about something like Silent Hill, when Metal Gear Solid comes up, and the way that Sony is operating right now, you figure they pull out the checkbook immediately and just start talking about numbers and what game they can have as some sort of timed exclusive for their platform. I mean, I know Silent Hill is popular, but let's be real. If you had to choose between Metal Gear Solid or Silent Hill as a timed exclusive for your platform that you think would draw in the most eyes and interest, you're probably going to go with a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Again, an iconic game getting the full remake treatment for current technology, like with these systems now. That would be impressive stuff. And in fact, I kind of think we're going to see this sooner rather than later, as in maybe the first half of 2023. I wonder if they would pair this with the remasters, the remake, and the movie. Just some initial talks around the movie, kind of like what they did with the Silent Hill movie that they showed off, or at least talked about, just saying, hey guys, we're off and running with this thing. We're going to be working on it. It's actually happening. And you kind of make a showcase out of it. But as we saw with Silent Hill, we closed out with Silent Hill F, which we all assume is the next game in the entire franchise and the big game in the series. Do you trust Konami to do a whole other Metal Gear Solid? I mean, a remake's one thing. Virtuos has the source material to work off of with Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PS2, but for them to carve a new path for Metal Gear or Metal Gear Solid, can Konami still even pull that off without Hideo Kojima? Because let's face it, he's not going to be involved. It was a really bad breakup then, and I have to imagine there's still a lot of bad blood there. And Kojima is off and running now with Kojima Productions. He's working on apparently 2 different games, one for Microsoft, one for Sony, so he's pretty busy there. And what we saw with Silent Hill F is, once again, they looked outside of Konami and brought on a different studio and even an entire writer, a new writer, to kind of lead the way there with Silent Hill. So I wonder if they would do something like that with Metal Gear Solid. That's Konami's biggest advantage now, is they understand they have really worthwhile intellectual properties, but it might be in their best interest to license it out and let other studios and developers and writers and all this take a shot at making one. That, I'm hoping, is their plan for Metal Gear Solid, because I would be kind of disappointed if it showed up and it was Metal Gear Survive 2 to close out the presentation. I don't think that would go over that well, and I have to imagine with Konami and how they are working to reinvest heavily in gaming now, that they would understand that that's a bad idea based on what happened with Metal Gear Survive. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Would you like the idea of the showcase just having remakes, remasters, a movie, and that's it? Or do you think they need to try to close out with something new, something like Metal Gear Solid 6? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.